Hey guys, my name is Harry Karanassos from the Foundry of Ideas. This video is part of a video series on woodworking projects and tools, and hopefully these videos will make it easier for you to find exactly what you're looking for. As you will recall, in this trilogy of videos we have already examined the Craig pocket hole jig in full review, and then we have examined the Kachu pocket hole jig, which was the actual presentation for the Kachu pocket hole jig was split in two videos because of the volume of points that I wanted to present to you. In this third part, I had again to split this part into three videos, which are made up as follows. The first video will present the MILESCRAFT dowel kit jig. The second video will present the improved version self-adjusting jig, and a jig for which I will present you with a number of adverse comments. The final video will concern this jig here, and I will show you just one part of it because it does comprise three parts, but this is the main part, and in my opinion, this is a very capable jig, very accurate jig, and has the ability of producing extremely strong connections between boards of, let's say, furniture, cabinets, and so on and so on. Right, to start with, let me present you with the parts of the MILESCRAFT jig, which is contained in a nice plastic box. And what we have here are the following. First of all, we have the instructions, and this is a very comprehensive set of instructions which explains all the parts of the dowel jig, and then it shows you practical examples of how to use the jig, and that is very, very important. In this respect, I must commend the maker of this jig, which is jig number 1359, the metric version. There is another version, the 1309, which is the imperial system version. Basically, they are similar to each other. The only thing that is different, of course, are the scales in metric and in imperial measurements. Having said all this, the parts of the jig, let me readjust the camera so that you can see in a closer look, maybe here. Here we have a container of glue. It's not very big, but it is good enough to get you started. Here we have 10mm, 6mm and 8mm drill bits, and the corresponding collar stoppers, which are again the same dimensions. However, I must admit I do not like these stoppers because in order to use the stopper you have to make sure that the screw of the stopper is exactly on the outer diameter of the drill bit, and that you might find a little bit time consuming and a little bit of a finicky arrangement. Nevertheless, that's that. There have been, here we have been presented with 6mm, 8mm and 8mm dowels, small quantity, but like I said earlier, enough to get you started. Now the main part of the jig is the joint mate, and the joint mate is made of some very strong plastic compound, and it has got 6mm, 10mm and 8mm drill holes. The centers of the drill holes are in line, and they are also in line with this white line which I have drawn for my own benefit. There was already a line scribed here, but I decided to put white paint on top of it to accentuate it, and the same thing on this side. So we have on both sides a good indicator of where is our center line. As you can see on the, I call this the top of the joint mate, we have pegs here, and basically these pegs help to arrange how we hold the joint mate onto a board securely in order to drill accurately. On the reverse, we have, of course, the continuation, the back end of the drill holes, and then, as you can see here, we have 6mm, 10mm and 8mm recesses in which we can insert the dowel as a guide. Of course, I will show you this in a practical example, so don't worry about it at the moment. I will explain to you everything step by step. Another part that comes together with the joint mate is this fence. This is a fence, as you can see, the fence is here, and the fence can be inserted in recesses of the joint mate here, so that we can adjust the distance of the board we are drilling from the center line, and that is very, very important. It is a very simple jig to use, and basically I would say that whilst it is simple, it is very, very capable. The price currently in the United Kingdom is approximately £28, which for the job that the jig does, I think is a very reasonable price. Now, in order to progress from this point, and having presented you with the various parts of the jig, let me switch over to the bench from which I will be working, so you can see the parts or boards that we will use to carry out a practical application. I hope that you are enjoying the video so far and you are finding it interesting. This is another view of the full jig. Earlier on I had mentioned to you that I do not particularly like the stoppers that have been provided with the dowel jig, and so I prefer to use this stopper. As you can see, the stopper is tightening independently of where you place it on the drill bit, and basically it will stay tight throughout the time you are working with it. I thought I'll just bring this to your attention. One other part that I wanted to present to you in connection with this particular jig is the actual dowel pointers, and they are here. You can see the dowel pointer consists of a cylindrical part, and then at the front of it, it has got a very sharp point, So whenever you have drilled a hole on your board, you can place this this pointer, dowel pointer, in the hole, and this will be indicative of the exact location of the center of the drill hole. Equally, if you place a second board on top of this dowel pointer, it will produce, once you press it on the pointer, it will produce an imprint, so you know that this is the corresponding place where you will be able to drill and be in harmony with the other board. Regarding the boards that you can use with this jig, let me tell you that for thicknesses of a 1/4 inch, 6 millimeters drill bit, you can use this with 12 millimeters to 14 millimeters thickness on board. 5/16 of an inch, which is 8 millimeters, you can use with 5/8 to 3/4 inch or 15 millimeters to 18 millimeters thickness board. And finally, 3/8 of an inch, which is 10 millimeters, drill bit and dowel. You can use this together with boards of 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inch, this corresponding to 19 millimeters to 30 millimeters. Earlier on I mentioned that on the jig mate, or on the joint mate, you have these pegs. However, just to be in line with the manufacturer's nomenclature, the manufacturer is calling this self-centering posts. The manufacturer is calling these holes here guide bushings, and here these are called dowel alignment slots. Finally, the collars that I mentioned earlier are referred to as drill stops. One important point that it's always worth recording in advance is the thickness of the joint mate, and in my particular instance this is 27.1 millimeters. This is just a matter of reference because obviously it will play a role when we insert the drill bit here, here and here. Therefore, we need to know how much the drill bit needs to be protruding on the actual face of the joint mate. The connections that we can achieve with this jig are three types. The first type of connection is what we call a corner joint, and as you can see, this is the way we place board number 1 here and number 2 here. In fact, it will be board number 1 that we shall use as the board on the top. What is important to realize at this point is that this board has got quite a lot of depth to insert a dowel hole of, let's say, 40 millimeter length or even 50 millimeter length quite comfortably, whereas this board here unfortunately has only got 14.95 millimeters depth. Therefore, this must be taken into account when we will drill this particular board, because obviously we do not want to exit at the bottom of the board. So here we have another view of how we are going to connect the two boards. Another system is, if the boards are like that, and that is called a surface joint, I beg your pardon. And the last type of connection that we have is if the boards are placed like so, in which case this is called an edge joint. So this will be the way that we connect the two boards. This is board number 1, and it is the edge of board number 1 here in which we shall drill our holes for the dowels. Board number 2, as I already mentioned, will have holes for the dowels, but they will be a lot shallower. The dowels that I shall be using will be 8mm dowels, and basically what I always like to do is to measure the length of the dowels just so that I know where I stand. This is 39.41mm length, and this one here is 40.05mm length. So we can say that nominally we shall accept this as a 40mm length and 8mm diameter dowel. Here I have set the length of the protruding part of my drill bit measured from here to here to 30mm. So I'm going now to place this in my drill. And with the assistance of the joint mate, I shall drill. You see, I have put an arrow here because this is the edge we are going to use of board number 1. I shall drill one hole here and one hole here to accept our dowels. The location of where we drill the holes on the edge of board number 1 does not really matter so long as we can drill corresponding holes on the surface of board number 2. This is board number 2, and as you can see, again, I have put a little arrow here because this is the surface where I'm going to drill my shallow holes of let's say 10mm depth. So first of all, what we do is we place our joint mate like so, and so long as I press this way, the system becomes locked onto the edge of board number 1. And so now that I am locked here and I'm holding it, I'm going to drill a 30mm drill hole. But before I do that, let me adjust properly my drill bit so that it takes into account the thickness of the joint mate itself. So basically we are here, and what I shall do with my calipers, I shall measure to ensure that I have got 30mm here, and here I am. I am going to tighten the collar, and I'm going to make sure that it is very tight. And before I proceed on the principle of measure twice and drill once, I measure it again and my depth is accurate. So let's place this like so. Hold the joint mate firmly. We don't start the drill until the point of the drill bit is on the board. And here we go. One point that I would like to also bring to your attention is that when you have drilled your hole, make sure that it is free of any dust, otherwise it might impede the way the dowel is going to penetrate to the proper depth. Having done this, I am now ready to drill a hole on this side here, and let's say here. I'm pressing this way so the joint mate is locking onto the surface of this edge. I insert my drill bit and now I start. So for this board now we have two holes, 30 millimeter depth and 8 millimeter diameter. This is board number 1. Now we shall deal with board number 2, and to do that we shall place board number 2 like so. This is the surface edge where the shallow holes have to be drilled, and they need to be in accordance and in position with the drill holes that we have already done on board number 1. I am now going to place the dowels in the holes we just drilled, but I am not going to apply any glue because then they will become permanent, and we don't want this for this example. So here we are, and at this point in time we shall use the fence of the board. So now I'm going to insert the fence on. You see there are serrations here, there are recesses here and here. You can see them here and here. So you can see now I can move the board, I can slide it. It's very easy to see here. However, we need to stop the fence at a particular point, and I will explain that to you in a minute. So basically what we do is we apply these threaded wheels here and here, which when tightened they hold the fence in the particular position that we want. Earlier on we mentioned that the thickness of either of these boards is 14.95 millimeters. So I'm going to scribe a line here which will be half of that dimension, because I need to place the drill holes of shallow depth on the middle of this edge of board number 1. So I need to make a measurement of half of the thickness of board number 1 and board number 2. I have set my digital vernier caliper here at 7.49, and I'm going to do the scribing. I'll do it this way so you can see. And before I go any further, I'll clamp the two boards to facilitate my scribing. So as you can see here, I have scribed the line. It's that white line, and that is set at 7.49 millimeters from the edge. The next step is for me to place this dowel here into the recess of the joint made, which is 8 millimeters. And what I will do, once this is in position, the fence is loose, and basically I'm just going to bring it flush with the face of board number 2, which is here. So I'm making sure that it is there. And the next point that I need to check is that the white line coincides with the line that I just scribed on this side, and equally the white line on this side coincides with the line that I scribed on this side. This is so, and now I am ready to set the joint mate. I have set the joint mate, and the next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to arrange that the drill bit depth here is 10 millimeters. So now I have set the depth of the fence to be tangential to the face of board number 2, and at the same time, as you can see here, I have used this dowel as a guide, and my white line is in line with the line I scribed on both sides. So I have set this at 10 millimeter depth. Here we are. And now I'm going to see if I can fit here. No, I cannot. The clamp is interfering. So I shall remove the clamp, and with this opportunity I shall clean board number 2. As you can see, I'm using a small piece of board, exactly the same thickness like this board, as a support at the back here, so that board does not tilt. So I'm going to come here, and basically I need to be exactly like that. I'm looking at the fence. My fence is okay, and I'm going to clamp it so they are both held firmly together. One thing that I want to make sure is I will look from this side to see that the white line coincides with the line I scribed here. I will make a little mark here, and that is good. So now check the fence, check the lines. I need to move a little bit here, just a touch, and check again the other line. Yes, okay. And now I'm ready to drill. Let me get rid of all this dust. And moment of truth. As you can see, no problem at all. It goes easily by hand, and we have a perfect connection here, and equally a tangential connection between board number 2 and board number 1. So as you can see, this is a very convenient and easy dowel jig to use, and like I said earlier, for its current price, it is a good jig to make a start with connecting boards with good ease, and at the same time obtaining a very strong connection between the boards. Of course, if you want to go a step further from the point of view of strength, you can apply glue on the edge of board number 1 and on the surface of board number 2, and also on the dowels, and that will give you an extremely strong connection. I just want to mention to you that in 1988 I made bookcases for my son, and only when we moved house recently I had to take them apart, and believe you me, they were very, very next to impossible to break apart. So good was the connection, so strong was the connection. So let that serve as an example of what I'm mentioning to you right now. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration, and I hope you appreciate the capabilities of this particular MILESCRAFT Dowel Kit jig. To conclude, in respect of the MILESCRAFT Dowel Kit jig, I would like to mention that the same way that we accomplished the corner joint just now, we can accomplish a surface joint and an edge joint. They are both very, very similar to accomplish, and I would leave this for you to practice when and if you get your MILESCRAFT Dowel Jig Kit. I think at this point it is appropriate for me to bring to your attention the fact that whatever equipment you see me using right now is my own equipment, which I have purchased with my own money. There is no sponsoring, and therefore whatever I state are my own opinions and my own thoughts. I wish to make this clear because obviously this is an important point as far as I am concerned. Well, we have reached the end of this video. I do hope that you have found my video informative and useful. Thank you very much for taking the time to go through it with me. If you enjoyed my video, please consider liking it and do subscribe to my channel. If you have any points that you wish to raise, or if you have any questions which are connected to this video, please leave them below in the comments. Your comments are valuable to me because I do try to produce videos that are related to the points that I receive from you. Your comments also help me to make better videos, so please keep your comments coming. Stay safe, healthy and happy, and I hope to see you in my next video.